Hello, you beautiful people. What surprised me about Penn State today? Well, I saw a African-American female conductor for a band. And that's really interesting to me because you don't see too many African-American females conducting a band. So it was just interesting for me to see, and it inspired me to become just like her.
This first day in New York, I would say that the thing that made me feel the most attentive and engaged was probably walking through Columbia. I felt like there was so much happening in different groups playing different games or just hanging out, that like the energy, I felt like I was really feeding off of it, and I felt like I could really excel in an area like that.
What surprised me today about Penn State was the orchestra teacher, how she could tell like who was off of their part just by listening to them. Like, I've never seen that before.
One thing that shocked me about Penn State was the fact that the staff and the students had such a strong bond, and the students were an active part of the program. Like, they weren't just learning from it, they were also teaching, they were helping advise. That's something that really shocked me.
I think I was most engaged in Times Square today because of all the loud and busy things and all the people moving around. And I just thought it was so amazing, so cool. And this might be a city I want to live in when I go to college.
One thing that surprised me today was when the band in Penn State was playing their instruments, and like the teacher, she was really like conducting it in a way that they would understand. Like, she would tell them, play like having a conversation, or call them out by name, like something that would actually help them. And it made me realize that that kind of help is like what I need.
What surprised me most about Penn State was learning that they had specific programs designed for like different aspects of technical theater, like their stage management, like mentoring program, and that many of their alumni end up being on Broadway. And that taught me that in the future, when we go to different colleges, I want to learn more about specifically like their technical programs, because that's what I'm interested in.
And I felt most engaged today when we were walking through Times Square, mainly because of all the billboards and everything. And it just is really interesting to be surrounded by so many different forms of art. And that tells me that I thrive in spaces where people are allowed to be authentically themselves. A space where I'm allowed to explore different things and different types of art, different forms of art.
The thing that surprised me the most about Penn State was the welcoming environment. I definitely expected to feel like a stricter vibe coming from the people there, but they were really nice and welcoming. They seemed like genuine people.
One thing that surprised me about Penn State was their accessibility to learning, in the sense of the amount of undergraduate and graduate programs that they offered, as well as the teachers' willingness to stop and wait for students to grasp the concept or teach in a way that was more understandable for students to be able to digest the information properly, that we saw in the band segment. And this makes me realize that I want to see in other schools the willingness to not only have students digest the curriculum, but have full understanding over what they're learning, so that they're able to take away lessons in a productive way.
I think I felt most engaged on the Columbia tour when our tour guide said that she was a chemical engineer. And then when we passed the natural science building, because those really piqued my interest, because that's something that I think I want to go into in my future. So hearing her kind of talk about that, and that's what she was studying, and that was just really inspiring to me.
And what I found interesting about Penn State was actually the mashup of more studio music mixed with stage or concert music. When we went to their concert rooms and their recital rooms, they were mixing like synthetic vocal presets with that stage presence, with actual instruments and actual voices. And I found that very interesting because you don't see that very often.
Today, I felt most engaged at Tisch School of Arts at NYU, because we seen a play called The Cup of Pence, which was by Brandon Jacob Jenkins. And it was a really up close and intimate show. There were there were 6 characters in it, so it was already a pretty small cast. And like, because of the space that it was in, it really allowed the audience to connect to the characters and just the overall story much easier than it, being in a big, theater. It really spoke to me artistically, because those are the type of plays and spaces I want to perform in. I want to perform in up close and intimate spaces. That way the audience can feel every piece of my art that I am putting out.
One thing that surprised me about Penn State was the orchestra. I knew that there were like probably tambourines in the orchestra,
the guy was kind of going like this with it. He was holding like this, going like that with it, and hitting the symbols, little symbols on the tambourine. What actually surprised me was that it actually had like a music sheet, which I was surprised about.
What surprised me about Penn State was honestly the simple fact that their colors were light blue, which is my favorite color. And my top 3 choices in colleges all, like, their colors are either dark blue or light blue. So it honestly made me more interested in trying to put that effort into learning more about Penn so that I could consider going there, because I didn't think about it at all. But then I was like, oh, blue is your color? Let me do it.
What surprised me the most was probably how big the campus is and how many different arts there are and all the different instruments in the orchestra and the symphony and stuff like that. And it makes me think, do I want to play an instrument and do I want to go to this college?
Something that surprised me the most about Penn State University is the way teachers instructed the students. I thought that it was really helpful to the students to know what to do next, because the teachers were really clear about how they said that and how they told that to the students. One thing that surprised me about Penn State is probably how lively the theater department really is, because of the people that we met and how we interacted with them and how they interacted back with us and how kind and like inviting they were to us.
For college, I didn't really think about going to college for like the arts and stuff. I was only going to go for medicine, but I feel like it might be a good experience to go for like the arts, because it seems like a really nice and close-knit community. And they're very supportive of the people in the arts.
So the amount of like small sections that they have for the arts and theater and other sections that isn't really paid attention to in other colleges, it's more of like these big main majors that they focus on. And this college sort of focuses on all the small stuff.
What surprised me about Penn State was pretty much everything, because I didn't have any pretext or context to the college or the university beforehand. I think the variety is also something that surprised me. Like, I didn't think that it'd have so many options, especially with the BF that they were talking about in stage managing. I didn't think like that'd ever be really something that they would center towards or anything like that, cultivate so well-roundedly.
Something that surprised me at Penn State today, the obvious like engagement for growth. One there really showed how much they're willing to work to grow at what they want to be good at and like what they need to do to succeed.
Something that surprised me about Penn State was just how beautiful the campus was. Also the fact that they're doing Detroit 67, which was super cool. But like, I loved the wall of alumni news. That's so cool. I mean, that's always so cool, because sometimes like I even was looking at the board, I'm like, oh, I know these people from like just following them online and stuff. I just think that's super cool. And I think this tells me that I do just kind of want to, like, at other colleges, like look up what their alumni are up to. That'd be so cool, especially with all of these theater colleges and all.
What surprised me about Penn State was the amount of things to do there. If I don't find another college I would rather want to go to more than Penn State, what I want next is to probably get a scholarship to Penn State, because I feel as if Penn State would rather be a great choice for me.
What surprised me about Penn State today was I think I saw more, I guess, African-American representation than I thought I would, because even though looking around there were a lot of non-people of color, I'm glad that some of our tour guides and most of the people that we met and talked to were, people of color, African American, because I don't know, I feel like that tells me that like especially in the arts world and going to colleges, like you don't see a lot of you don't see a lot of African Americans or see a lot of people of color. Like, seeing that excellence in person and seeing that achievement in person just kind of boosts your morale, about being in the arts or being in theater or whatever else. That just tells me I just need to see more diversity in colleges, more Black excellence.
What surprised me today about Penn State was the music theory culture, and also how supporting the university was. It gave so many benefits and advantages for upcoming theater kids who are freshmen, to give them physical therapy. And I thought it was just a really welcoming college, and the culture was just so inviting.
What surprised me about Penn State today was the way that they had different programs, and in all of the programs they had different styles of it, to where like it could fit your personality, and it makes me want to look into it to see which one I want to do in life. Bye guys.